How are we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as we welcome you back to our Season 7, Week 10 NCAA recap show. Your Pitt Panthers this week coming off a dominant victory over Georgia Tech. Should have been 42-0, ended up being 42-7 because of a weird rules inaccuracy by the ACC referees, but that's par for the course for ACC refs. We know they're going to screw something up all the time. 114-yard interception return. That's not even physically possible. Farthest you get's 109. But I digress. Huge game for us. Really, really complete performance. Couple of huge passes. The third quarter is where we really broke it open with those couple of deep balls to KJ Welsh and Davion Reynolds from CJ Kirk. We were 10 for 14 on third down, which is unbelievable. And our defense held Georgia Tech to 3 of 11 on third down. So really, really impressive performance. We also had 4 red zone touchdowns on 5 attempts. And I think the last attempt might have been we were in the red zone when we kind of ended the game. So it wasn't really a big deal. Oh, no, we did. We had the fake interception, excuse me. But overall, really nice performance. Kirk, 2 touchdowns, the 1 pick that I don't even know if the ball was caught in bounds. But either way, not the smartest of throws. But otherwise, he managed the game really, really well. He also ran for 96 yards. He was our leading rusher. Great game for him. Davion Reynolds with a rare kind of poor performance, 3 yards a carry, and did have a touchdown. Daenerys Carter actually was more effective than him, 6 yards a carry, as was Colin Wells, 6 yards a carry. So really nice game for some of our reserves. Davion, not his best performance, but he did have the receiving touchdown as well. CJ Kirk ran for the touchdown, so we did get those guys involved when we needed to. Ceno Rogers, pretty quiet game, 2 catches for 37 yards, but KJ Welsh back on the board, 97 yards and a touchdown. Davion, 2 catches, 64 yards and a score as well. So some big plays for those guys. Not a lot of receptions to go around, though. We did try to spread the football out, but guys with 1, 2, 3 catches, just because we didn't have to throw very much as we pretty much controlled this game from the off. Big game by our defense. You know, you got 3 interceptions. Granger, Dio, Langston, Jordan Murphy, all with picks. Mac McAlevey led the way with a pair of sacks. Jordan Murphy had a sack. Marcus Lanier, with a sack as well. So fantastic game there. Granger had an in and 2 deflections. Damian Vector had 2 deflections. Jordan Murphy had a deflection. So it was incredible to see how strong our defense can play when they get the opportunity to do so. They were very, very impressive today and put on arguably their most complete performance of the year. Granted, it was against a Georgia Tech team that's 2-6. But that said, we still played really, really well. Holding them to 150 yards passing is very, very impressive, especially in a game like this where passing seems to be easy to come by. Phil Henry did have a nice game rushing the ball, but with Georgia Tech trailing so much early on, they just didn't lean on the running game like they maybe should have, because Henry is a good player. When we do face particularly good running backs that teams lean on, we can be a little bit susceptible to some yardage as we've seen in the past. But in this particular instance, we dominated. Their only real bright spot of the whole game, Gibson's fake interception, and then Antonius Williamson, the defensive end, he was a terror. He was torturing our backfield all game long, 2 sacks, and he was just constantly forcing Kirk out of the pocket, scrambling, and so on and so forth. He had a really, really nice game and looks to be a good player for Georgia Tech. Syracuse, 31-24 over Wake Forest. Clemson, 41-21 over Virginia. And Baylor, 38-35 in a ranked battle. They go into Chapel Hill and knock down the doors of the Tar Heels, beating UNC 38-35. Really, really fun game that looked like in a non-conference game that you don't often see this late in the season, but really, really good game. Kimbrough for North Carolina, a couple of touchdowns. Devin Blake, 2 touchdowns. And we like to look at this matchup because after our bye week, North Carolina is the team we'll be taking on, so we want to see how that game went for them. Quentin Jackson, Baylor's quarterback, 4 touchdowns, 252 yards through the air for the Bears in their victory. They go to 7-1. They're making some noise. They could be in with a shout for the Big 12 Conference Championship game, depending on how results play out. But around the rest of the country, Cincinnati just keeps on chugging along, 59-20 over Memphis. An incredible, incredible performance. And this time, it wasn't AC Reese doing all the damage. It was Joey Williams. Reese left with an injury after throwing 2 early touchdown passes. He should be good to go for the rest of the season, but just had to come out of that game. Williams comes in 200 yards passing, 66 rushing, and a touchdown. The bigger issue for Cincinnati, Andre Cantrell, their star running back, 5 carries, 2 touchdowns, but then he also left with an injury. His is much more significant, and he is expected to miss some serious time for the Bearcats. Texas with a big win. Kansas State with an upset away at Iowa State. The Cyclones at home in Ames, but unable to win. Kansas State with some late touchdowns to really pull away towards the end of that game. King with 3 touchdowns, 122 yards on the ground for the Wildcats. Really nice game there, and gets a big victory. Oklahoma, another interesting out-of-conference game late in the season. They blow out Stanford 41-14, and here, real upset of the week. SMU, new to the Big 12 this season, and they get their first kind of marquee win, knocking off number 12 Oklahoma State 29-28. 2 late touchdowns to pull them ahead and get that win. Michigan blows out heated rivals Michigan State 42-9. Nebraska over Northwestern. Nebraska sneaky, very, very good this season. A team to watch for down the stretch here. Indiana with a big win over Rutgers. Ohio State blows out Purdue. Purdue's insane. They have one of the best players in football in Caden Mitchell, their 99 overall halfback, and they're awful. They're just really, really bad. Georgia, another team, so much talent, and yet here they are 4-4, 3-4 in SEC play. Really, really struggling, and I can't really seem to figure out why. Carter Ford is like a 98 overall quarterback. Jackson Stroud is an unbelievable sophomore running back. Their talent level is so high, but Georgia just seems to struggle. You remember they played us in the bowl game last year. Had a nice season, but again, not to the heights that we might expect from that program. Penn State 27-0 over Illinois. They just keep churning. Alabama beats an FCS school in their typical tune-up game before they take on LSU this coming week in a marquee matchup. Coastal Carolina knocks Louisiana from the unbeaten ranks. 20-0 victory for the Chanticleers. Really sending a message there, especially after we blew them out last week. They come back with a huge motivating victory. Western Kentucky keeps churning with a win. Cal 49-45 over Arizona. Late touchdown to secure their victory there and improve to 7-2. USC also beats Oregon State. So we do head into our bye week here following that victory, and we get some great news. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the episode, but 2 commits. Joe Harris, center. He's a JUCO, which means he's going to come in as a junior, so he'll have a little bit less eligibility for us, but he's a guy that could potentially start right away. And then Jeff Houston, a corner, signs with us as well. We did miss out on a receiver, and we have a few guys that have locked us out on our board, but love to see some of the signings that we get in. We'll talk about them later in the episode. Players of the week, Ryan Bell, quarterback for Arizona State. 6 touchdown performances. They beat Wazoo. Great game for the sophomore to earn NCAA Offensive Player of the Week. Kieran Russell from Army wins Defensive Player of the Week. And then ACC, Adam Chandler, 3 touchdowns, 186 yards for Clemson in their win over Virginia. He was a guy that we recruited many years ago. Great recruit. Really wanted to sign him, but we lost that recruiting battle. So always fun to see players that we had such interest in doing well and potentially being a matchup for us down the road. While Jordan Murphy Jr., our true freshman dime corner, sack, interception, and a deflection, ends up getting him ACC Defensive Player of the Week. So very, very cool for us there to see him get recognized in his first year with the program. Heisman watch now, Darion Williams, after a massive game yet again, he moves up to the top of the list. He's up to 11 touchdowns and over 1,100 yards rushing, almost 300 yards receiving, and a few touchdowns there. Marquez Gordon is Penn State's quarterback. He's been very, very impressive for them. 22 touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns, and we know how NCAA loves quarterbacks that can run the football as well and getting them into the Heisman race. So he's the top quarterback as it stands right now, but Taylor Savage right there as well. Pure pocket passer, 29 touchdowns against 4 picks. He does have 3 rushing touchdowns, but it's not really his forte, but he's an unbelievable passer. 29 touchdowns on the season. He's in there, as well as Justin Martin from Ball State, 142 yards last week, gives him 945 on the season. A lot of touchdowns for him as well for the undefeated Ball State squad to keep him in the Heisman race. And we look around the NCAA, we take a look at the rankings here. Alabama and LSU 1-2 on the season right now, but that's not going to last much longer as they will play this week. Cincinnati's at 3. We're all the way up to 5 now, sitting there at 9-0. Penn State right above us at 4, but with their 1 loss, I would think we might be able to leapfrog them into a higher rating. Clemson at number 6 right now. Notre Dame somehow sitting at 7 with 2 losses. Oklahoma, the defending national champion, still lurking in the lower part of the top 10, but expect them to make some moves. Western Kentucky's unbeaten. Ball State's unbeaten in their receiving votes. Louisiana no longer unbeaten. They fall out of the top 25. We look around the ACC. Pitt 5-0 right now. 3 games left in conference play. North Carolina is going to need some help from either Miami or Syracuse to be able to get us to 2 losses. But if either one of those schools, North Carolina or Miami, can stay unbeaten, beat us, they'll have an opportunity to make the ACC championship game. Clemson, pretty much in already. They're 6-0, 2 conference games left. Everybody else has 2 losses. It's going to take a miracle and some tiebreakers to get them out of the ACC conference championship game. ACC schedule this week: NC State, Duke; Florida State, Wake; Louisville, Boston College; North Carolina, Virginia; and Miami, Virginia Tech. So some really big conference matchups here. Miami, Virginia Tech, one to watch, because obviously whoever wins that game will stay in contention for ACC championship play. Whoever loses is pretty much out of it once you drop to 3 conference losses here. 2, with some help, you could maybe hop in and win the Coastal Division. Miami favored right now by Corso, but Virginia Tech at home, so we'll see how that plays out. Huge Big 12 matchup here. Baylor, we saw them beat North Carolina last week. They're going to return home now and take on Houston, an in-state matchup that's now a Big 12 game. Of course, with Houston joining the Big 12 along with SMU this year, that got them back to having a conference championship game, and so makes a lot of intriguing matchups now. Some huge Big 12 games, or Big 10 games, excuse me. Penn State, Minnesota; Illinois, Indiana; Nebraska taking on Michigan. Nebraska 8-1 right now, number 22 in the country. Michigan, number 18 at 7-2. Nebraska's been very, very impressive. Both teams with really, really good offenses and really, really good defenses, top 10 defenses, in fact. But what'll be interesting is Nebraska's a great rush offense. Michigan's a great pass offense. We'll see who reigns supreme in this one. And another interesting non-conference matchup here: Cal taking on Iowa State late in season here. That's another top 20 ranked non-conference matchup, so that's going to be very, very interesting to see. Really doesn't affect anything as far as postseason play is concerned, but it will affect the rankings depending on who comes out victorious there. Auburn's going to travel away to K-State as well, so another fun one there. Corso actually likes Auburn in this one. And then the marquee matchup we'll get to in just a second: LSU taking on Alabama at Tuscaloosa. College game days there, of course. Number 2 versus number 1. It's not often you have such a heavily anticipated matchup like this, but top 10 offenses, top 10 defenses, top 10 turnover differentials, top 2 talent, to be honest. LSU and Bama might be the 2 most talented teams in the entire country. They're unbelievable. But again, another juxtaposition in the way that these teams play. Alabama prefers to run it down your throat. They got Darion Williams. They have Tyrone Woods. Matt Perry's not the best quarterback, though they do have some good receivers: Phillip Smith, Darion Rogers-Cole. LSU, they air it out. They do have Bo Brown, who's a really good running back. Kai Brooks-Jennings is a great number 2 right now, but Kelikolio, their quarterback. They have Jacoby Sutton, who probably should win the Biletnikoff. Some really, really talented. Raheem Boone, another great young receiver. They're all so talented. It's going to be an incredible, incredible game. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to win that one and have a run at the national championship. Joe Harris, though, for us, big week for the Panthers. Some big recruits. Joe Harris is probably the biggest, just because of the fact that we're losing our starting center, Luke Davis, to graduation, likely to the NFL draft this season. He's a fantastic player, but because of that, he's going to be gone, and Trey Brown is our reserve center. I think he's a redshirt sophomore this year, and he's not great. He's like mid-70s overall. We'll see how he develops. Joe Harris is going to come in as a junior, around 80 overall, depending on how his final projection shakes out. And he's a guy, he could challenge for immediate playing time. There's no doubt about that. We do miss out on Nick McCoy. He goes to Miami. Looks like a solid player, but one that we just don't have the depth and availability of scholarships for right now. And he can go somewhere and get a scholarship, so he chooses Miami. Jeff Houston, nice developmental project at cornerback. You take a look at that: 69 overall, 93 speed, which we love to see, 77 man, 81 zone, but his tackling is really, really bad. 56 overall tackling, which is horrific. So hopefully he can develop. We do have a bunch of corners ahead of him, so it's good to see that he'll have some time to develop in that region. Joe Harris, though, 82 run blocking, solid. He has B pass blocking, C impact blocking. He's projected as a 78. That hasn't changed just yet. So if he comes in at 78, even maybe 80 overall, he could be our day one starter coming to campus. Though, of course, the big difference is he's going to be a junior immediately coming to campus as it stands right now. And you can see the rest of our recruiting class. We've got a couple of defensive backs, Williams and Leonard, bunch of linemen as it stands right now. Ryan Gilbert, Joe Harris, Spencer Thomas as well. So some really, really good depth, because we are losing 3 senior starters on the offensive line, 1 center, 1 guard, and 1 tackle. So we're kind of reorganizing those cupboards and getting a lot more stock in there. And we see with Ryan Gilbert, we do get to finally finish scouting him. He doesn't come in as highly overall rated as he was, but still 75 overall. He may not be a week 1 starter as a freshman, but I think, you give him 1 year, maybe 2 at the most, and he's going to be an excellent prospect for us moving forward as far as talent. I mean, you can see he's a good player. He's very highly sought after. Virginia Tech, Penn State, Clemson, all interested in him. So you can see our current recruiting class as it stands. We have 10 scholarships given out right now. We have 13 leaving seniors, 1 available roster spot because we have 69 players on the team. Nice. You can get up to 70, so we have a 14th available scholarship. And then we always like to sign 2 over the scholarship limit because we want to account for the fact that we could have a couple of guys leave for the draft next year, could have some transfers, things of that nature. And so that means that we have 16 total scholarship spots available, which means we have 6 more players we could sign. We've got 5 signed on the offensive side of the ball right now, 5 signed on the defensive side of the ball. And it remains to be seen who's going to fill out those final 6. We definitely have some targets. We have a big 4-star defensive line target that we're interested in. Maurice Smith, he's a local product from Pittsburgh area. Love to sign him. We've got a new strong safety target we're going after. Also interested in the likes of Tennessee in Penn State, so we'd love to sign him, add some more depth in our defensive backfield. Huge outside linebacker target that we're heavily pursuing, and a lot of these guys are going to be visiting here in the upcoming weeks, especially. I think we have something to the likes of 8 or 9 players already scheduled to visit in that game against North Carolina, so you're going to get a look at those names when we get up to that week. So that's going to be unbelievable to see all those players scheduled to come in when we take on the Tar Heels, but a lot of guys that we're interested in. Not any real skill position players as far as halfbacks, wide receivers. We're pretty much set at those positions already, and we do have 2 quarterbacks in this incoming class already. So it's going to be a lot of positions that we just need to add some depth. Maybe have some guys that, because we're losing a good amount of seniors, 6 defensive seniors. Like we said, we got 3 offensive linemen that we're going to be losing as well. We have some impact players that we're going to need to potentially replace next year, which means we're going to add some depth at those positions. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.